Hey y'all. This guy named is Santos. Um, this guy is super. This is an Uber man right here. This guy is actually connected. I have a lot of respect for him. Been following him for probably more than 15 years now. I actually never met him in person, but my brother worked side by side with him on a few projects, and I had a chance to kind of like I guess be introduced to him, but never actually really met him face to face. So, but this guy's very intelligent. Um, he's talking about as you can see Freemasonry, initiation, Illuminati chakras, Illuminati revelations, and algebra or ledge or whatever that's saying. But he's talking about basically Freemasonry, initiation, Illuminati chakra points and stuff like that, sacred geometry, all that type of stuff, and how it aligns with all of us. I think that's what he's about to talk about. But I just wanted to point out that this guy is super intelligent. Santos Bonnacci, I believe that's his name. And like I said, he worked with a guy, a brother of mine named Tana, on some big things, having to do with electromagnetics and pulses and, ridding of diseases and bettering health and all, using different, technologies or whatever. But this guy is super intelligent. I think you should look him up. I'm just going to go ahead and record some of what he's talking about and, let you see. Look him up, Santos.
Historically, that would have taken that name, just like there would be a historical Jesus, if you like, because the mystery school that was around in the Middle East that was churning out Jesuses was operating until Titus came along and destroyed it. Remember Titus's arch? He commemorated the destruction of the Jerusalem, and they've got the Jewish menorah. Remember that? The Arch of Titus in Rome? Well, he commemorated that, the destruction, because what they did was they destroyed one of the Mediterranean's schools where you could go and be initiated. And in the initiation, you had to go through ordeals, you see. So they were actually putting people on crosses. They were doing it. They used to do this in Egypt. This is why Freemasons, have got all their strange rituals. It's all based on this. This is Freemasonry. And they have to, go through the ordeals just like the son goes through the ordeals, betrayal, and then, blindfolded, and then killed, and then he's got to climb up and run away from his enemies, Satan is always there, and then he's got to conquer, and then there's the sign of exaltation of the sun, and here is the sign where, etc., etc. Right? That's what we do in our ordeals. Now, in the Middle East, that's what they were doing. They were bringing people, they had to carry their cross up the mountain, and then they had to be hung on the cross for 3 days. And when they survived the initiates, they were given a new name, and usually that name was Jesus. There's the Jesus. That's how it was known. It was not a historical person. It's the spiritual person in you. It's your soul. It's who you are. And then when one has achieved this illumination, one then is able to have the crown chakra pierced, and he is an illuminated chief, an Illuminati. There it is. There it is. And that is the vision that St. John had in Revelation. The moon,
spirit is it.
Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, all described in the first chapter of Revelation, where it says, "I beheld the Lord, and his face shone like the sun." Well, that's the sun. And he had a sword that issued from his mouth. Well, that's Mars. Mars is the martial one. He's ready to fight at the drop of a hat. And he had white hair, because he was the ancient one. Well, that's Saturn, old man Kronos. He's got white hair. It's all grey. He doesn't got any, nice dyed hair. The belt around the paps. I mean, what's Jesus doing with some nice little boobies? Well, and what's he doing with a belt around there, like a bra? So it's a bra, basically. Well, it's Venus. So he's describing in the first chapter of Revelation. And what happens is these are the seven vowels of the creation, the seven planets. These are the Elohim. That's the Elohim. He was actually describing the Elohim, the solar system, our big brother as above. Whatever it does, we do. We've got the sun in here. Marsilio Ficino has had a lot to say about the sun. I want to share something with you here. The sign in which the sun is exalted, that is Aries. In this way, becomes the head of the signs, signifying the head in every living thing. Also, the sign in which the sun is domiciled, that is Leo. It is the heart of the signs, and so rules the heart in any living thing. I'm stressing that because that's what I'm talking about this in all of my presentations, you see. And the reason being is because that's how the system works. Aries is always the head. And the words for Aries have always meant that. In Jewish, Rosh means the head. In Greek, Krios means the head. In Latin, Primus means the head. That's where the primavera starts, the first season, the spring. Prima, that's Primus. Right ascension begins here. There's a lot of reasons. For when the sun enters Leo, it extinguishes in many regions the epidemic of the python's poison. Moreover, the yearly fortune of the whole world will always depend on the sun, on the entry of the sun into Aries.
Hey y'all, you gotta be.
And hence, from this, the nature of any spring may properly be judged, just as the quality of summer is judged from the ingress of the sun into Cancer, or that of autumn from its entrance into Libra, and from the coming into Capricorn the quality of winter is discovered. These things are gleaned from the figures of the heavens present at that time. Since time depends on motion, the sun distinguishes the 4 seasons of the year through the 4 cardinal signs. Similarly, when the sun returns by the exact degree and minute to its place in the nativity of any person, his share of fortune is unfolded through the whole year. It happens in this way because the movement of the sun is the first and chief of the planets is very simple, as Aristotle says. Neither falling away from the middle of the zodiac, as the others do, nor retrograding. You see, all the other planets retrograde. And what's retrograde? Well, you know, if you're watching the planets, you see Saturn, he's doing this, and all of a sudden you see him go like this. And then he goes back forward, and he goes direct. So he's transiting a sign, and then all of a sudden he goes back a few degrees. And you go, what the hell? And you're watching this, you know, you go, wow. I was watching that last year with Saturn in Virgo. Right, it goes all the way to Speaker, then it goes back the other way. In Libra here, Virgo and Libra, Saturn's been here for the last couple of years, right? So it retrograded, it went back to Virgo, and then it goes back, now it's in Libra, right? Well, it's still physically in Virgo, but anyway, won't go into that because it needs a lot of explaining. But in our vortex solar system, you see the planets are all doing this, and of course, that's why every orbit is elliptical, because they're all occurring in cones. Every orbit. There's not an orbit out there that is not elliptical. And because it's doing this, you see, it's conical. So what happens is, when, let's say, this will be Earth, here's the Sun, there's Mercury, Venus and the Earth, say we're about here, and Saturn is coming around, and say Mars is coming around here, right? Because we are travelling fast along this way, we are heading in that direction, and Mars is going around this curve, he will seem to be going backwards. You see? They don't retrograde physically. They don't sort of stop, you know, and then go back and then, well, that was good, interesting little retrograde, that was, very kinky. They don't do that. But that's how it works, because we're all following the sun in its cone, and the sun is the leader. And all the planets follow. It's Snow White and the 7 dwarves.
Like a spy.
It's Little Red Riding Hood. It's
Something
Hercules.
illegal.
Samson pulls down the gates of Gaza. It's Troy. It's Helen of Troy. Helen of Troy is the moon. And where's my? There it is. Now this guy, Thomas Taylor, he was interpreting all the
Get a glimpse of
all
all
the
this stuff
philosophers,
from the
right?
illuminated
And he's the best one.
from the
But he's talking about
perspective. What physical is.
he's talking about
Remember,
Troy.
it's all about
Of course, you
spirit.
see, there are
Don't be
scholars who
distracted.
really believe and insist that Troy was physically on the historical plane. It's good when you have intelligent people, shedding the light on all of these. Like you have, how many books have been written, trying to prove that Jesus was historical and etc. and the apostles and everything like that. But then you get one great book that comes along, like Alvin Boyd Coons, that one, and dismantles it with proofs. Absolute proofs. Well, what he's saying here about the Trojan War, etc., if I can find it. I've got so many good points here. It's just beautiful the way this guy explains the myths, Oh, there it is. Of course, it's in The Wandering of Ulysses, okay? This is one of the books that he translated. And it says, the Trojans are called genuine. For all the lives which subsist about bodies and irrational souls are favourable and attentive to their proper matter. On the contrary, the Greeks are rational souls, coming from Greece, i.e. from the intelligible into matter. You see, so it's talking about this. The Trojan War is talking about man, and the Greeks, of course, are going to call themselves the rational ones, coming in and experiencing the experience of matter. Hence, the Greeks are called foreign, but vanquish the Trojans as being of a superior order. But they fight with each other about the image of Helen, as the poet says, about the image of Aeneas. Helen signifying intelligible beauty, being a certain vessel attracting to itself intellect. An efflux, therefore, of this intelligible beauty is imparted to matter through Venus, and about this efflux of beauty the Greeks fight with the Trojans, rational with irrational lives. And those indeed that oppose and vanquish matter return to the intelligible world, which is their true country. You see, so when Ulysses spends 10 years returning to his true country, that's 10,000 years of incarnation it's talking about. It's talking about us. 10 is just, it's not 10 years literally, it's a symbolic number. According to the... as therefore the prophet in the 10th book of the Republic... and those indeed that oppose and vanquish matter return to the intelligible world which is their true country, but those who do not, as in the case with the multitude, are bound to matter. As therefore the prophet in the 10th book of the Republic, previously to the descent of souls, announces to them how they may return to their pristine felicity according to periods of 1,000 and 10,000 years. Thus also Calchas predicts to the Greeks their return in 10 years, the number 10 being the symbol of a perfect period. And as in the lives of souls, some are elevated through philosophy, others through the amatory art, and others through the royal and warlike disciplines. So with respect to the Greeks, some act with rectitude through prudence, but others through war or love, and their return is different, according to their different pursuits. And that's how they all return back. to Greece. Now, the best of the Jewish wisdom that you can get will come from the Sefer Yetzirah and the Zohar. Okay, these books perfectly explain all of this science. Okay, and in the Zohar, it's interesting to note in one of the books in the chapters in the Zohar, it talks about how to look at the Torah. And in here it explains that we must not look at the Bible, the Torah, as a literal document. Because the Jews gave us these silly stories. On a literal plane, they're silly, but they're wise stories. You know, they're hiding a great kernel of truth. You know, like a silly story like Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Well, the origin of this is very simple, you know, to people who are thinking. They don't need to, you know, do too much thinking. That would be a happy egg, wouldn't it? Full moon, and in the ovaries that would be the egg. Right? So the moon, she climbs up. New moon, she climbs. There's quarter moon, quarter sun. And she keeps waxing. And finally she gets into her kingdom. She's full and glowing. That's Mary Magdalene. That's Helen of Troy. This is Troy. This is Troy.
Mr. Bonnacci talking like Fibonacci.
And when Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall, there's no king that can put it back together again. Because that corresponds to the menstruation cycle. That egg's a goner. Right? So you see, all of the characters are there. There's not one that is not there. And this is what they're saying in the Zohar. Woe to the human being who says that the Torah presents mere stories and ordinary words. If so, we could compose a Torah right now with ordinary words and better than all of them. In other words, he's saying there's more to it than just ordinary little stories that you can mock. You know, when you hear about Samson killing his 1,000 with an ox, Jonah being swallowed by a whale for 3 days, etc. You know, please don't laugh at us. Even Origen in the 2nd century, the Alexandrian Gnostic Christian said,
Gnostic.
You know, they're just stories. They are stories that hide a deeper truth. Josephus said it. Philo Judaeus, Philo, the great 1st century scholar, he said that everything in the Bible, in fact he wrote works called allegory, explaining the allegories in the Bible.
Like algebra.
The Apostle Paul in Galatians chapter 4, he talks about the allegory of Sarah and Haggai.
Kind of like all
because Sarah would be the moon,
and
the moon is the mother of spiritual Israel. Right? She would be Isis.
Isis?
But the earth, Hagar, she is the mother of the slaves. Because earthbound people are slaves. Whereas spiritual ones that go to Sarah. You see?
Hieroglyphic stuff inside the pyramid.
And where do you find Sarah?
Sumerianism, like all.
Well, she's on top of the mountain. That's the spiritual, our spiritual mother. You see? And when Moses climbs Mount Sinai, that's the mountain of sin, the mountain of the moon. Another word for moon is sin. And Sinai comes from that word. You see, it says, fools of the world look only at the garment, the story of the Torah. They know nothing more.
The story of the Torah versus the Kabbalah. Nothing more. They don't know about the mysticism.
Thomas Paine, who was a Hermetist, I'm going to wind up in 5 minutes. Thomas Paine, who was a Hermetist.
Is that what they say?
And one of the founders of the Republic, of the Hermetic Republic of the United States of America.
Hermetic.
And he said, as to the Christian system of faith, it appears to me as a species of atheism, a sort of religious denial of God. It professes to believe in a man rather than in God. It is a compound made up chiefly of manism, but with but little deism. And it is near to atheism as twilight is to darkness. It introduces between man and his maker an opaque body, which it calls a redeemer. as the moon introduces her opaque self between the earth and the sun, and it produces by this means a religious or an irreligious eclipse of light. It has put the whole orbit of reason to shade. The effect of this obscurity has been that of turning everything upside down
Distraction.
and representing it in reverse.
Wow.
And among the revolutions it has thus magically produced, it has made a revolution in theology. As to the theology that is now studied in its place, it is the study of human opinions and of human fancies concerning God.
It's gay.
That's all it is. You go to church, you go to Jehovah's Witnesses, human opinions, buffoons. Go to the Mormons, same crap. Seventh-day Adventists, all of them. They've all got their patented version of the same rubbish lie from Rome. It is not the study of God himself in the works that he has made, but in the works or writings that man has made. That's what the churches are up to. Yeah. And it is not among the least of the mischiefs that the Christian system has done to the world that it has abandoned the original and beautiful system of theology, the Prisca Theologia. He knew it. And to make room for a hag of superstition. And you need to read what he says. He calls Christianity a dag on the spiritual evolution of the human race. A dag, like a sheep has a dag on its bum. That's what Christianity is. It's like a dag dragging us back into the world of superstition, killing scientists like Galileo Galilei and murdering prophets of this true wisdom. The age of ignorance commenced with the Christian system. But the Christian system laid all waste. And if we take our stand about the beginning of the 16th century, we look back through that long chasm to the time of the ancients, as over a vast sandy desert, in which not a shrub appears to intercept the vision to the fertile hills beyond. It is an inconsistency scarcely possible to be credited that anything should exist under the name of a religion that held it to be religious, to study and contemplate the structure of the universe that God made. So he's saying that Christianity has been opposed to the study of the universe, how God made it. It's been opposed. That's the enemy, Thomas Paine. That's what caused Teddy Roosevelt to call him a filthy little atheist 100 years later. Because, of course Teddy was, a corporate buffoon who wouldn't know what an atheist is. He wouldn't know what Thomas Paine was anyway. He's just happy to vomit out his rubbish, like all the rest who came subsequent to the period of 1871 when they founded the Corporation of the United States, which is not the Hermetic Republic, Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. You see, everywhere where Hermes goes, he brings liberation. He did so to the Waldenses and the Lollards and the Huguenots and the Socinians and the Collegiants and the Anabaptists, etc. How many organisations, the Bogomils, the Cathars, the Albigenses, the Jews in Spain that were persecuted through the Inquisition. That was 1,000 years ago. And then the Renaissance came and they squashed that with the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation. And then the Republic came and set itself up. And this is all Hermetic. But then the Vatican saw what was happening over in the new lands and it sent its banksters over to trick people. Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States, says, "I killed the banks." Thomas Jefferson said, "Democracy is mob rule." We heard what Thomas Paine says. Thomas Paine also says that the Christian religion is a parody on the sun. I've got all those quotes. I've done them in other presentations. So these Hermetists tried to save the New World, but the Vatican came a-calling. After the death of Abraham Lincoln, they set up in Washington, D.C., a corporation called the United States. headed by the Vatican. That's why you have the two fasci in the Congress in America. The fasci belong to Rome. Rome tells you where it's ruling and who it's ruling and sodomizing. It makes fools and slaves out of the world. So this information is the information that frees, and I hope that you've enjoyed the presentation and urge you all to continue studying this stuff. You know, grab a book, a notepad, and do this. Do the zodiac, this wheel. This is the wheel that we were blessed with. That's why this is the most known symbol in the universe. This is our science, and no one shall take it away from us. It's coming back, and it will absolutely free mankind in the very, very near future. And it will destroy the fictions of false religion. Absolutely obliterate them. It was prophesied. Hesiod prophesied it. Hermes prophesied it. They all said it. All the prophecies know that when this age comes and Saturn returns in Aquarius, big time truth. He's a truth dealer.
Aquarius, y'all.
Oh yeah, that's why he's got the scythe. He gives you life in truth and he takes it away. Everything is just with Saturn. So enjoy the Prisca Theologia, and please continue to be prosperous in this information and spread it abroad, and we can help our brothers. And with that, I'd like to close and encourage anyone out there who's able to understand what I'm trying to achieve with all of this, and in particular with the 48 constellations, that I want to actually get anyone who knows how to do graphics and has equipment and time and is able to help. I would really like to reach out to anyone out there that can help me to put together a video that will have all of the stories, all of the legends, all of the Bibles and Gospels and mythologies, all of them interpretable by one short journey through the zodiac, and the sun going through the zodiac from Aries, and we'll be able to see all the Bible characters and all the mythological characters in there. This is what I'd like to achieve. So if anyone out there is able to donate time and resources and any sort of skills to help me put that together, please contact me at universaltruthschool.com. Thank you.